In this video, we will overview the sample collection options available when you are requesting tests for your patients. Here I have a patient called April Unreal. She's a test patient. I'm just about to order a full blood count test for her. There it is. Select it, and then I get the form to fill in with the request detail. This replaces the paper request form that you used to fill in days gone by. Right, if I scroll down, you'll see the collection options. So the very first option, collect now, is when whoever is requesting the test for the patient, in this case it's me right now, this is when I intend to collect the sample from the patient immediately after requesting. So typically this would be a nurse or a doctor who requests a blood test and collects a sample immediately after filling in the request form. The next sample collection option is called Next Inpatient Phlebotomy Round, and that's for when you want the patient's blood sample to be collected in the next available phlebotomy visit to your ward. Okay, so select that option and it will tell you when the patient's sample collection has been booked. So in this case, the order will be booked into the next suitable appointment slot, which is currently at 8:30 on the 2nd of March. That's tomorrow morning. So I've obviously missed the afternoon collection. The future inpatient phlebotomy round option is when you want the sample to be collected by phlebotomy, but not necessarily at the very next available visit by phlebotomy to your ward. So, for example, if you want the sample to be collected the day after tomorrow, you'd select that option. And when you submit this request form, after filling in all the mandatory fields, when you submit, you'll be prompted to select which phlebotomy round you want the sample to be collected in. Order now, collect sample later is the option typically used by outpatient clinicians. It's used when you do not necessarily know when the patient will be available to provide the sample. So if you place the order now, you'd probably give the patient a slip to say, do come in on the 3rd day of your cycle, if it was female, for example. The last option, collect on date, is typically used on the wards when the sample is to be collected by staff who are not necessarily phlebotomists. It could be nurses, healthcare assistants, emergency care assistants, and you want them to collect the sample from the patient. This could be for any samples from the patient. So you'd select that option and then you give the date that you want the sample to be collected. You can change the date. You can say you want it to be collected the next day, a week from now, etc. But typically you'll leave it as the default, which is today's date. So just to summarise again, collect now when you're collecting the sample yourself immediately after requesting. Use Next Inpatient Phlebotomy Round when you want the sample to be collected in the next visit by the phlebotomist to your ward. Use a future inpatient phlebotomy round option when you want to give a date that you want the phlebotomy to collect the blood sample from your patient. Use Order Now, Collect Sample Later when you do not necessarily know when the patient will be available to have the sample collected, but you want to place the order now. And use Collect on Date when you want someone other than an inpatient phlebotomist to collect the sample from your patient. And by default, the collect on date is today's date. If you need any help with using ICE, do contact the IT service desk on extension 5858 or email address gwh.itservicedesk@nhs.net.